The estranged wife of convicted killer Eric Williams is headed to prison for her role in the Kaufman County DA murders. Kim Williams made a plea deal with prosecutors that will keep her off of death row and might allow her out of prison in as few as 20 years. She specifically pleaded guilty to first-degree murder for the death of Assistant DA Mark Hasse in the Kaufman County Courthouse this morning. She made that plea not far from where she helped her husband kill Hasse almost 2 years ago. Williams, who testified about the revenge killings in her husband's trial, was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Her attorney says she's accepted responsibility for the crimes, but is a different person now that she's off drugs.
The person that you saw is not the same person that agreed. And when I say agreed, I think that may be too strong a word. I believe that she just went along with Eric's plans to seek revenge, and she wasn't in any type of a condition to stop him from doing such.
The children of the other victims, Mike and Cynthia McClelland, took the stand this morning to tell Williams what the murders have done to their family. And this afternoon, they sat down with Fox 4's Richard Ray to talk about the punishments and what's next for their family. Rich.
Steve, I think it's easy to miss how difficult murder trials are for the families involved, in this case for the loved ones of Mark Hasse and Mike and Cynthia McClelland. They're in the courtroom day after day as the testimony unfolds, needing to be there, but forced to relive it all. Lives on hold until it's over.
It brings a little bit of closure, but it doesn't make up for the loss.
Families of 3 murder victims left the courthouse in Kaufman this morning, bound for the rest of their lives. Kim Williams' guilty plea, the end of the courthouse drama, closing another very difficult chapter.
You know, we went through the death. You grieve, anger, healing. You know, you do that the way this all played out. We had to go through it again.
Hours later, J.R. McClelland, Mike McClelland's son, was back at work at his feed store in Wortham. A man forever changed by the murders, but he says with a new appreciation of the life he's been given.
Tomorrow's not promised. We all know that, but you know, this whole thing has changed my attitude completely. Living your life and not knowing in 5 or 6 years you're going to go do something, because you might not have that opportunity, you know, to do something for somebody or to do something for yourself, you know. So I've taken that to heart a lot throughout all this.
Yvonne, Mike McClelland's mother, surrounded by photographs of her beloved son.
Makes me feel good. This one. Every night.
Still struggles with the pain and anger over her family's terrible loss, convinced that the death penalty is not punishment enough.
It's just day-to-day living, and I'm trying to forget. I'm just trying to cope.
Still with Eric Williams on death row, Kim Williams headed to prison, there is relief.
We don't have this on our shoulders anymore. We've had the trial, they've gotten what they deserve, and now it's a deep breath and we can breathe again.
JR is committed to living his life the way he says he knows his dad would have him lead it.
You've got to move on. Put your big boy pants on and go. You know, you can't grieve forever. And not that we're going to forget Dad or Cynthia or Mark, but you know, you can't dwell on it forever. If we sat here and just, you know, let our lives go to nothing, Dad wouldn't want that.
Mike and Cynthia's wedding.
Nothing will ever be the same, but you'll adjust and we'll move on.
This is his dad.
JR and the rest of the family celebrated Kim Williams' 40-year sentence tonight the same way they celebrated when Eric Williams got the death penalty, with a steak dinner at their favorite restaurant.
All right, Rich, we've seen this family in court. We saw them during the penalty phase, and there's some real tough statements made, and I think people like the kind of makeup that they seem like tough folks, but I don't know, from your time with them, they still hurting underneath that tough exterior?
You know, I think they are. It's been a pretty tough Christmas at the family there. It's a big family. Typically, they have a big Christmas, but this year they didn't do much. They just didn't feel like they could plan anything because they didn't know how long the trials were going to take, if there were going to be 2 trials. I think they'd all agree that Nanny, Yvonne, has had the most trouble moving on with this, though it's not easy for any of them. And I was struck by much of what JR told me about how the loss of his father's really changed him, that he's not putting things off like he used to, that he'd always meant to take a cruise, so he took a cruise. He'd always meant to go to the prison rodeo in Angola, Louisiana. He did that, and next on his list, he says he's going skydiving. You don't forget, he says, but you do move on. And again, we can only imagine the pain that family's gone through.
Right. And maybe we all ought to do some of the things he suggests.
I think
right?
he's got a
don't
good
put
attitude.
things off. Good attitude. Right, Richard Ray, thanks.